Welcome back to Athletic Everyday, day number 34. And when I just finished my workout today, I was walking out of my garage. I work out the back of my house, at the end of my garden there's a garage. And I was thinking to myself, I remember when I used to train kind of neurotically, and this happens to everyone who trains, or at least begins training, people who aren't experienced with training physically for an extended period of time. They have this kind of neurotic attitude towards training where it's kind of like, I've got to cram in as much as I possibly can into this workout. I've got to make this workout the best possible workout I can possibly do. I've got to give it my all every single workout. I've really got to push super duper hard. I've got to give it my absolute everything. And it's kind of like this hustle porn sort of grind set, sort of Sigma male grind set mentality that obviously is useful in some places, but you definitely can't apply that mindset to every single thing you do in life because it just burns you out. And if you had the mentality of, I'm just going to do this consistently all the time, then there's not this anxious kind of neurotic need to make every single session as perfect as possible. Yeah, you're going to try your best, but there's no need to make every single session maximal effort, maximal intensity. You can't do that. You can't do super duper high volume, super duper high intensity every single session. It just doesn't work. And the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I realized that when you do train consistently, one of the benefits of training every day is that every single day doesn't have to be great. You just have to do it every day and show up. And that is one of the beautiful things that I love about doing this whole sort of project that I'm doing, this Athletic Everyday, because I've been able to step away from that paradigm and that mindset of, oh, I've got to make sure I get everything in this workout because, yeah, so what if I miss it in this workout? If I miss one thing or one little thing doesn't go right in this workout, doesn't matter. I'll be at it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And it's just going to go on until I physically can't or until I stop enjoying doing this. But I don't think either of those things are going to happen in the near future. So yeah, that's a good thought to just start this session. Into the actual training, I was doing some sprints today. So the sprints are progressively increasing in distance every single week. So last week it was 2 sets of 20 and then 4 sets of 30. And this week it was 2 sets of 20 and then 4 sets of 40 meters. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, 40 meters is the longest distance I've ever sprinted in my entire life. I don't really ever do more than 20 or 30 meters. And to be honest, I actually didn't feel any serious strains or anything on my hamstrings. The only thing I found difficult was just maintaining that speed for 40 meters, which I guess is sprint endurance, something I haven't really ever trained before. But top speed sprinting is very different from acceleration sprinting. So when you're going from a dead stop, trying to increase your velocity, you're going to be working in a slightly different way than if you're working at a top speed. Obviously, your speed is different because you're top speed versus acceleration. But when you're at the top speed, you have a much shorter ground contact time with the ground. And because of that short ground contact time, by the nature of the movement, you have to produce force very, very quickly, which is why sprinting is so good for increasing power output and increasing elasticity, because there's not that much muscular effort. If you actually look at really, really elite sprinters, if you look at them sprinting at top speed, they actually have a great amount of relaxation, and you can see there's not really much muscular strain and muscular effort. Definitely not in the top end, maybe in the acceleration phase, but definitely not in the top speed end of sprinting, because it's almost like they're just bouncing off the ground. They're utilizing the elastic properties of their muscles and their tendons to just spring off the ground continuously. And what you just saw there were some rebound jumps or rhythmic jumps where I'm aiming to be as springy as possible off the floor. Again, really, really short ground contact times. And then also some depth drops. So I was jumping from as high of a height as I possibly could off of the bench. Well, not necessarily the highest I could, but that's to replicate jumping from or landing from a height that is much higher than my current max vertical jump. My current max vertical is probably somewhere in the region of like 31 or 32 inches from a full approach. And I think the combination of the height of that bench plus my really, really tall jump, or however high I jumped, would be more than that. Then I moved on to some RDLs. The program calls them hip hinges, but it's basically the same thing. And the weight on this is meant to be light. It says 45%. The way that this program does percentages, it does them as a percentage of your max back squat. So I roughly worked out what 45% of 170 was, and it worked out to be about 76.5. So I just put it at 77.5. And it was 2 sets of 10. That was superset with Pallof press. It was meant to be Pallof rotation, but I actually much prefer Pallof press to Pallof rotation, to be honest. I can really feel it a lot more, and there's a lot more of a anti-rotation effect that comes from that when you have to brace. I find that generally, well, in sports and athletic movements, there is a combination of rotation and anti-rotation, but I find for me, there's more benefit for me in having a stable core, maintaining that stability, as opposed to training that rotational movement, which is trained in most athletic movements anyway. Then the last movement of the day were some hip drives or knee drives. I can't remember what you call them. We'll call them knee drives, banded knee drives. And I really enjoy this movement, and especially in combination with the extension of that other leg, triple extension on the other leg, it really does replicate that sort of sprinting motion quite well, and it trains the hip flexor in a sort of athletic way, which is why I really like this movement. And the stability from the squat rack really helps me to get a lot more out of it. And I also broke my band, but not to worry because I had another purple one. But this purple one was a little bit thicker, so I ended up pulling the weight across the floor ever so slightly. Don't know if you can see it there at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's workout. Let me know what you guys thought, and I will catch you guys in the next one.